Welcome back, everyone. Just rocking out over here to that music.
Can't stop the rock.
Can't stop the rock. Welcome back to AWS On Air. My name is Aaron Hunter, and with me we have Kyle.
Hello.
Vin. Hello.
I'm still Kyle.
And still Kyle. Still Aaron, but we have someone new. Vin. Hey, welcome to the show. Vin is from the Documentdb team. Vin is from the Documentdb team, here to talk about a couple new features that have recently been released, and one of them I'm pretty excited about. But I'm not going to steal the show. Vin, let's go ahead and talk about Documentdb. What are you showing us today?
Sounds good. Hey, everybody. My name is Vin. I'm one of the product managers here with the Documentdb team. And today I have two new features I'd like to share with you that we launched just on Monday, actually. One of them is a new data type. We'll go into a little bit of details on what that is. The feature itself is called Decimal128. And we'll explain to you why that's important for you. And the second one is Dml Auditing, which is a pretty important features for a lot of our customers. And we'll also go into more detail on that. Now, before we get
Documentdb, I need to know about what this Documentdb thing is.
Yeah.
A little more details.
Sounds good. If you're not familiar with Documentdb, we are the service is it's a database service for managed database service here we offer from AWS, and it's for NoSQL document workloads. And what a document really means is just a JSON, so a JavaScript object notation database. So I'll show you some demos later in a bit where as we show you what a document actually is. As I show the demos.
So you mentioned NoSQL, and we have like SQL, structured query where we have schemas and tables and relationships, but this is relationship based or document based?
It's document based.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of people say they think NoSQL is like not SQL, but it really is not only SQL. Like I like to think of it as kind of more expansive on, what's already available in your repertoire of databases and tools that you can use.
And you mentioned that you have two features. Do you want to maybe jump into the first one and the problem that it solves for the customers?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna in a bit. Maybe we could start sharing my screen, and we'll actually go from the very beginning and talk a little bit about the doc. Actually, taking a step back, talking about what a document is. So one thing I like to point out about Documentdb is that it is a Mongo compatible service, and what I mean by that is. One of the benefits here is that you can use Mongo tools. So here I am in my Cloud9 environment, and if you're not familiar with Cloud9, it is a in-browser development environment that you can use. So it really one way you can think of it is it's just a virtual machine, really backing the covers of this with a really, really slick interface. Yeah, so in the bottom,
it's really easy for users to jump in and start maybe creating APIs or accessing APIs and hitting them directly without having to build out their own IDE and manage that infrastructure or that environment.
Yeah, and I love it for demos as well. So here I am. I'm using the Mongo tool, and this is a Mongo client that allows us to interact with Documentdb. So I'm just going here and just log in. And I'm going to just go straight to one of my databases. I'm going to show you what a document is and why it's very powerful for a lot of development use cases here. So I'm going to just use game. Actually, I'm just going to take a look at all the databases I have. So show databases, and I have a game database. So I'm going to just go use GameDB, and here DameDB. I meant to say GameDB.
It seems like a good database to still use, though.
Yes. So here I actually have a clipboard with just some queries. So you don't have to see me painstakingly make typos. So here,
cooking show.
Yeah, it is a bit of a cooking show, but not really cooking. We're actually cooking just really fast. So here I'm actually just running a query, and I'm going to find in my game database on my users collection. I'm going to find all the gamer profiles that have the username Sue1942. So you can see here, I have a very basic user profile with a username and the name of the individual for this profile. Now, let's say I wanted to add some attributes to this document. One way I could do that. Now, if you were to do this in a SQL structured query language, you'd have to potentially create new schema, generate potentially a new table. But with documents, what's really beneficial here is that we could just insert a sub-document into this document. And I'm going to do that with a update. So here I'm going to, on my collection, users collection, I'm just going to find a collection that I want to insert a sub-document to, in this case, Sue 1942. And I'm going to set a new sub-document into it. So let's go ahead and press enter. And you can see that one of them was matched and one of the documents were modified. And let's go back and take a look at this now. So now you can see that, you know, Susan is playing a new game called Exploding Snails. She has a new high score.
That sounds very interesting.
I'm just
So you
thinking
can
like a
Exploding.
mess.
I know, very messy game.
Could have called it many other things as well. Maybe Minesweeper, but you know, so you can see some similar aspects we can continue to add on to this document as well as over time. And this itself is a document. I think one really big benefit here is that customers and users really love this model because it allows them to dynamically evolve their application as they have new requirements. So that's in a nutshell what high level intro to documents and Documentdb. Now let's go into the first feature, Decimal128, and I want to just exit this really quick and just to showcase why this feature is kind of important. So if I go to my Python shell, if I type in Python, I want to ask.
Not to throw you too far off track, would you mind expanding your terminal just a little bit so we got some bigger letters?
Most definitely. Let me just
Thank you.
Go ahead and just expand here. This is good for y'all?
That much more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can see.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to just ask you two actually a question. What do you think the output of this is going to be?
Oh,
I have two numbers here. 0.1.
Are we still talking about
plus
exploding
0.2.
snails? Messy.
0.1 times 0.2. I mean, I'm not a rocket doctor, Vin.
0.3.
Plus 0.3. Okay, let's press enter here.
Oh,
Well, look at this. Now, notice how it's mostly 0.3, but you see it trailing numbers and then like a 4 at the very end.
Yes.
So what's going on here? So if you just take, so one thing that's really interesting here is that computers, a lot of times we store, values in ones and zeros, and that's binary. So if, unfortunately in binary, representing decimal like 0.1 and 0.2 is really challenging. It's just like how if we represent, 1/3, we could go on 3 forever. So the decimals here, we actually lose in some precision. So this is where Decimal128 kind of comes in really handy. Very similar with documents. So I'm gonna log back into my database. I'll use GameDB. And I want to just show you two documents. So I have two documents here with ID 1. Similar aspect here where I have 0.1 and 0.2. So I'm going to run a query that adds these two together. And we should get a very similar value. So here, same thing. You get a value that's not very high, very high precision because we actually lost some precision and we added those two values together. Now, the way we go about this is actually using Decimal128. Decimal128 is designed from an IEEE standard to actually handle high precision workloads such as tax documents or financial documents. So yeah, so if you go to, so one thing that we could do is I want to insert 2 more documents, and this time I'm going to use Decimal128. So here, I'm just going to press enter. So just highlighting, I want to insert 2 documents with a number. And what I'm going to use, the function I'm going to use here is number decimal. And I'm going to insert this with a ID of B. So let's go ahead and run that same summation, and I'm going to press enter, and you can see that the value that was returned is 0.3.
Okay, instead of the 0.3 with like some kind of long numbers right behind it, it's just straight 0.3 now. And this is the power of what Decimal128 is doing for us?
Yeah, so when it's stored in binary, the way it's stored in binary is actually stored with 128 bits of precision. So it's with so it actually has 34 decimal places, and is actually dealing with these values not in 1 and zeros, but represented in base 10, which is our numbering system of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So this is increasing the accuracy of numbers stored or data stored in Documentdb. Is that what I'm hearing? Mostly for like financial use cases?
Yes.
Because decimal places are very important when it comes to money, right?
Yeah, you can imagine, I think there were some funny movies back in the past describing these type of situations with lost pennies.
No, yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
That's a great one.
So I'm sure also with this, like being a Documentdb or a document-based database, does it impact the performance at all?
I think that one thing it does impact is storage, but I think that it's just a little bit more compared to, say, another data type that's double or integer from that perspective.
All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you for that. And then you said you have a second feature with Documentdb as well. I'm really excited to hear about that one.
Yes, the second feature. So I'm going to switch over now to our second feature called Dml Auditing. And I want to start just by showing you actually, where's my documentation? Just this feature in terms of our documentation, so I can explain to you what that is. Now, there's two parts to this, DML auditing. The first part is DML, which stands for data manipulation language. So if you are either reading or inserting new data or updating data or deleting data, this is classified under DML, which is manipulating the language in the records itself. The second part of this is auditing, which is really just recording and viewing events of the past, just keeping up. So putting those together, we are recording the history of data manipulation language events. And the reason why I want to start with my docs is just to show you what type of events we can monitor. So earlier, before, you saw that I inserted some data, and I did some finds as well, which is reading that data. So here you can see that it is considered for example, this is a DML write. So whenever we insert a document or documents into collection, it's considered an insert. And with DML auditing, we would actually record that in history. Yep. So you can view all the events that we do record with DML auditing in our documentation. And one more thing I'd like to also point out is we had just released a blog this morning. Speaking of timing.
Perfect timing.
So you could for sure, the show is not pre-recorded.
People can watch it on demand still. So this morning, as of August 12th.
Yes. As of August 12th. You can view this blog that we just published, and it will have actually an end-to-end walkthrough of how you can enable this feature all the way to some of the use cases as well. So I think we'll share this link out with you all as in the link section.
Wait, that sounds like homework.
But, this is huge, though, because if you have a customer using Documentdb for a critical application, and they need to have insight to what is happening within the data of that Documentdb, this is that way to be able to perform that attribution. Coming from an incident response point of view too, it could help piece together a puzzle for if Documentdb is involved with a security event. Not that I ever wish that upon anyone, but it could provide context to what is happening to data within that. Am I gathering that correctly?
Yeah, actually. So there's a thing that you mentioned. That's like one of the two primary use cases. One of them is just really enhancing your security posture. So whether you can imagine a lot of times as engineers or service engineers or folks from the incident response team like yourself need have access to the database, right, for various reasons. But a lot of the times, you shouldn't be poking around in all the different collections or different tables of the database. And with auditing, this really provides a paper trail, or auditing trail in this case, really, for you to see who was doing what in the database for those incident type of cases.
And with that, I'm guessing there might be some kind of like DML events that we can put somewhere and analyze against.
Yes. So I'll show you how we actually capture DML events and how you could view and analyze those events in a bit. Yeah.
Now, is this something that's enabled on new Documentdb, or is this something that you have to enable as an option when you're standing up a new Documentdb?
This is an option that you'll have to opt in.
Okay.
So you have to enable this yourself, because I think that a lot of times you may not be interested in all the events. You may be only interested in a subset of events. So we'll go into that in a bit. The second area I'd like to call out in terms of use cases, one of them was that enhanced security posture. The other one is really around compliance regulations. A lot of our customers come from many different industries. So especially around finance and healthcare, those are the customers that I've talked to recently that are really excited about DML auditing.
Awesome. Yeah, let's take a look at it.
So let's go to our console, actually, our AWS console. Ooh, so many tabs. Okay. So
City.
Yeah. This is actually a bit too zoomed in for me. Zoom out a little bit. So here's a list of clusters for my Documentdb clusters. And I want to take a look at this one example called DocDB cluster. So here, this is an instance that's already created. But if you were to enable this in terms of turning on DML auditing, you could look under, the first step would be to look under your configurations, and you could see what parameter group you are using. So parameter groups are a set of parameters or settings that you want to apply to this cluster. So here I could look under parameter groups, and you notice that this DocDB cluster is using custom cluster param. So if I go to my parameter groups, I do have a parameter group called custom cluster param. So if I go here, you'll see that one of the parameters that I can edit is called Audit Logs. So if I click on this and I click on edit, you'll see that there's several values: enabled, disabled, DDL, DML read, DML write, all or none. So what you could do is look at just DDL events, or you could look at DML reads or DML writes events, or you could have all. So in this case, I have already turned this on with all. But if you want to configure another type of events, you just have to enter a different value.
Okay, so you can kind of change the verbosity if you wish, as through these parameter configurations.
Yep, and this is also all documented in our docs, so you can see the more fine detailed description of what type of events DDL events kind of capture versus DML and that type of thing. Yeah. So in fact, because I already had this enabled on my instance, now one thing I like to point out is that by default, all your DML logs are actually streamed to CloudWatch. And because I had enabled this on my DocDB cluster, while I was showing you some of the demos earlier with Decimal128, let's go see if we actually see some of those events captured in CloudWatch.
So I love the fact that we can see it in CloudWatch, because then we can even do like more analysis against it and like trigger events using EventBridge as well.
Yeah, CloudWatch insights, and you could query against it. You got that 15-month by default retention, unless if you need other sort of requirements. I like it.
So here, let's take a look at AWS, and it goes under your cluster name with the audit appended to it, and that's the log group. So here I want to click on the last 30 minutes, and I want to click on find, for example. So you can see here, one of the I enabled all the DML events on this cluster. So you can see that there was the user Vin, because I was logged in as Vin, and the database I was in was GameDB, and you can see that I was finding So this param is the list of all the details around the DML event. I could see that there was, I was looking for users with the username Sue1942.
Exploding snails.
Exploding snails. Yeah.
still as gross as it was the first time.
Yep. Nothing's changed.
Yes. Yeah. And here you can see I was finding IDA, which is similar when I was showing you that decimal 128 type of example. Now, to your point, as you were mentioning earlier, because this is integrated with CloudWatch, there's so much more you can do just because it's in the realm and integrated with CloudWatch. For example, I could set a metric on this. So I could set a metric such that there's a metric published every time I do a find, and there is it's in the realm of the GameDB database in the example collection. And with that, I could build on top of that continually by building an alarm, for example. So you see here, I have an alarm. So what this alarm does is every time there's a find on my collection in this database, I'm actually going to just straight up set this in alarm state. So you can see here I have an alarm. And then from that point, you can see that it integrates with EventBridge, and you can have it send an email to you, for example, if there's an incident or of any sort.
I can see this being really good for like SOX, PCI, HIPAA compliance as well. So that way they can actually start to really dig into the details and fully understand what's happening in their environments.
Yeah,
totally.
You know, if you start seeing some abnormal not API calls, but what would you say? Just calls within the database, you can trigger something. Or if there's a sensitive database, if there's any activity within that's modifying it, you can set a flag up and have someone do their thing. So really, the opportunities are limitless at that point. Once it's in CloudWatch, you can world's your oyster, as they say.
Kind of. Yeah. And Vin, what would you say is like maybe some kind of call to action or someone to go out and do something with this?
Yeah, I mean, if you're really interested in this feature, I would definitely check out this blog. Everything I just showed you, actually, this blog walks you through end to end what I just showed you, which is creating a metric, which is enabling DML auditing on your existing cluster, and as well as it walks through all the events, creating a metric filter, and actually setting an alarm on it. So that's one thing I would checking it out.
Awesome. So cool. Hey, Vin, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. And everyone who's watching right now, we do have a survey out. There's a link in the chat, so please feel free to take a look at that. And what is it? The first 50 get a $10 coupon, something like that. $10. Go do the survey, everyone. Let us know what you think about Sensatia. Let us know what you think about AWS Skill Builder subscriptions, and also let us know what you think about Vin's amazing demo about DocumentDB and the 2 new features they announced, and the blog that was announced today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Vin, thanks for being here. And Brian and Danny, thanks for helping us to interpret it. Thanks for being here, everyone. Take care. Until next time, this is AWS On Air.